Welcome back to the Spectre Creative Channel. I'm your host, Scott ToyGuru Neitllich. I've been a brand manager, marketer, designer in the toy industry for over 20 years, and today we're talking about one of my favorite toys, Silly Putty. Yes, I know I'm usually an action figure guy, and that's what a lot of my videos are about, but as we finish up 2020, I want to talk about some toys that are, well, historically important and sometimes have often very interesting origin stories. And today we're going to go into the history of Silly Putty. So obviously today, Silly Putty, owned by Crayola, is available in all sorts of colors and I don't want to call it flavors because, you shouldn't eat Silly Putty, but, effects like glow-in-the-dark putty. But no matter what color or what effect, it's still the same original formula. Molds to your hand, molds to your touch, can pick up newsprint or comic book, and it's had a lot of interesting iterations, from being seen as a superhero when Silly Putty had its own comic book where Silly Putty Man versus the Space Pirates. We all know Space Pirates are green with, long ears. Or one of my favorite uses is using it to mask for paint when doing customization of action figures or vehicles. It works as a great way to get paint on figures to appear in exact places. It's also a great tool for gripping, like for kids who need help gripping a pen or pencil. It works perfectly for that and can mold exactly to their hand. And of course, it also has the toy effect of being used to sort of hold things together, like if you wanted to create figure chairs, like for these Disney dolls. In fact, it sticks and holds so well that astronauts on the Apollo missions brought Silly Putty with them, not for space experiments, but because they could use it as a tool to stick things like pencils or, pieces of paper onto the console, and it would stay there. And it was also used to alleviate boredom. Silly Putty was even released as a high-end $50,000 silver egg by Neiman Marcus, for those interested in owning the most expensive version of Silly Putty ever. Hey, it's out there. So the origins of Silly Putty, that takes us back to World War II. Obviously, a lot was happening in the world and on the home front, and one of the big things here in America was we had a lot of rationing. Well, not just in America, rationing all over the world, but specifically because Silly Putty was created here in America, we're going to be looking at American rationing. And pretty much everything from sugar to meat to rubber had rations, and rubber was needed for the war effort for things like wheels. So there was a dictate to all scientists to find a way to create a new form of rubber. So, of course, scientists took to that task. Specifically this group, scientists from the the GE, General Electric Laboratories. And specifically, James Wright, who worked for General Electric, was specifically working on the task of creating a new rubber substitute for the U.S. Army. And one of the experiments he tried was combining silicon fluid, which has a very high viscosity, with borac acid, traditionally used as an insect repellent or killer. So when he combined the two of these together and mixed them up, an interesting thing happened. There was a chemical reaction that created a new substance that was both a liquid and a solid. And to his sort of surprise and delight, when he dropped it on the ground, it bounced. Wasn't expecting that. Interesting. So for the next 8 years, the scientists at General Electric played with this stuff, they manipulated, they tried to find different uses for it, and they pretty much gave up and decided it was a useless object, a useless substance. It didn't hold, it wasn't a solid, it wasn't a liquid. They basically said, all right, we've tried everything. There is no commercial use for this stuff. Well, along comes Ruth Faldener. She owned a toy catalog and toy store in Connecticut. Yay, Connecticut, my home state. And she saw this as an amusement and diversion for adults in the 1950s. So she recognized this and put it right there in her catalog for the block shop. which, although mainly they were advertising children's playthings, they had a page dedicated in their catalog to toys that adults might like. I guess you could call this the original adult collectors. So there it is, right at the top under for adults of all ages, Silly Putty. Well, seeing the object in this catalog was Peter Hodgson. Peter saw this and said, this is interesting, a very unique substance. And when he gave it to kids, he found that they enjoyed it even more than adults. Gee, what a shocker. Kids love to play. So he took this and he brought it to New York Toy Fair, set up a booth, brought bunches of samples of what he was now calling Silly Putty, and nobody was interested. Absolutely no one. They all thought, just like General Electric, this really has no long-term use. It's not a solid, it's not a liquid. Sure, it bounces, but so does a ball. Might as well just get a ball if you want something to bounce. What's the point? Well, the big innovation Peter had was Easter was coming up, so he packaged it in small eggs to celebrate the Easter holiday, giving it to stores to sell on their countertop. And that's where the first breakthrough happened. Packaging it specifically in these eggs for the Easter holiday gave it a reason for being, and customers saw this really as an impulse buy, as an Easter present. Where it really took effect and changed everything was when New Yorker, in August of 1950, recognizing the sales of this Easter toy, featured it in their what's called the Talk of the Town section. And within 3 days, Hodgson had orders for more than 250,000 eggs of Silly Putty. This article alone was responsible for not only bringing it to mainstream America, but legitimizing it as a safe, fun, and creative toy for people of all ages. Then, of course, the TV advertising really kicked in. And in the 1960s, by bringing Silly Putty to the boob tube, the small screen, whatever you want to call it, it brought Silly Putty all across America and all across the world, a very, very simple toy to advertise, understand, and comprehend. The simplicity of it and the unique egg-shaped packaging helped make Silly Putty a household toy for billions around the world. In fact, Hodgson, who had to borrow $147 to go into initial production, left an estate of $140 million when he passed away in 1976. Silly Putty, a true American classic, and if you've never played with it, I can't recommend it enough. It's fun, it's awesome, it's Silly Putty. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like other videos highlighting the history of other toys, let me know which ones. Leave them in the comments below. Give me a subscription and a like, because that tells YouTube to share this with others. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.